Hello and welcome to another episode of Let's Keep It Real, Meet the Authors. I'm Alvina Ryan, and today we have LaTia Russell.
Hi,
Hi, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So happy to have you here on the show.
Happy to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure. I don't think we've ever met. And
No, not virtually either, not face to face, just kind of in our online space.
exactly, but we're both part of the same book. We're both co-authors
Yes.
in this book, Finding Joy in the Journey, Volume 2. And
Yes.
so it's a pleasure to be discussing and meeting all of the authors in this book to discover where they're finding their joy.
Yeah.
So just to explain a little bit about this show is called Let's Keep It Real. And real is spelled REIL, and it
Okay.
stands for relevant, empower, inspire, and legacy.
I love that.
So we're going to be talking with LaTia and seeing how she fills all of those boxes, as well as explains who she is and what she does. Because our goal is to actually expose the authors and show who they are so that other people could understand who are the people behind the stories. So, LaTia, who are you?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question, right? like how much time do we really have? But the short version is I am a mother. I'm a wife. I'm a daughter. I'm a granddaughter. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and I am a believer in humankind and kindness and love and all things. And so I'm a giver, and I just love to love.
You actually answered that question really well. Most people don't
Thank
know how to answer that question. So I love that. You started off with all of the things that you are, and then you even expanded to daughter, which, we forget that we came from somewhere else. It's
you.
just
Mm-hmm.
more than just being the mom yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I love the way you answered that. Thank you so much. So we want to know more also about your book writing. Is this your first book or do you have other books?
So no, this is my first anthology project.
Okay.
And my husband and I established our publishing agency at the end of December 2020. And then I published our first piece of content in January. I published a gratitude journal, which I think you can see here.
Wow.
So it's a gratitude journal for moms, and
Okay.
it's called Grace Permitted. And it's a 300 a daily gratitude journal, so a 365-day gratitude journal for moms. And that was the first piece of content that I published. And since that time, we've been able to publish up to we might have like 13 various titles. So we did a lot of journals. We've done coloring books. We actually have one of our that kind of best-selling coloring books is an affirmations coloring book for children. And it's called Living Color: Positive Affirmations for Children. And then on Friday, we literally just released our debut children's book. And we released it. Thank you. We released it in ebook form. And it became an Amazon bestseller the day of release. Right? My mind was blown. So humbled, so honored to even be able to kind of encompass all of that. But that project was so special to me specifically because I co-authored that with my husband and our 4-year-old son, along with the positive affirmations coloring book as well. So we've been working, we've been working, and a lot of low content stuff initially, but the anthology project was kind of getting my feet wet in writing, and then releasing Bravo, The Brave Butterfly, which is what we just released on Friday. And then we have a bunch of other children's books that need to be written, and we have 2 that are ready for illustration. So Lots of writing.
Wow, wow, wow. So is your genre children's book? Is that where you're staying? Is that your niche?
So as a family, I think so. But I myself will likely write across genres. Um, and I will probably also do a lot of self-help type of content as a social worker. That's kind of in my wheelhouse. So I find that I am really finding the anthology space really comfortable because it gives me an opportunity to really exercise my writing without having to write a full novel. So until perhaps I may decide, if I ever decide to kind of go out into publishing in a full length novel, I will stick kind of in the anthology realm and then in children's books for sure.
Well, I need to ask you about your schedule because I'm trying to figure out. You have a 4-year-old, you have a husband,
Yep.
you're a social worker, and
Yes,
you're
ma'am.
writing books and publishing.
Yes, ma'am.
So, what is your, like, most people want to know, what does a writer's schedule look like? Because in their head, writers write in the morning and then they go golfing and then they hang out. Like, that's what they think when you say, I'm an author. But your schedule can't look anything like that. So run us down. Like, we want to know.
Oh my gosh, we wish, right? And I wish my schedule was as neatly put together as a writing sesh in the morning, and then off to the nail salon to get my a pedicure, and then after. Not at all. So okay, so here's the funny thing too. And I think in my bio I put, and this is kind of consistent, that I'm also a co-captain of a multi-generational household. And that's really important to me because in our home, my mother lives with us, and my paternal grandmother lives with us. So my father's mother lives with us. My father is deceased, and he was my grandmother's only child. And so when my grandfather passed away, and my grandmother was getting older and she just couldn't, maneuver and manage in her home the way that was conducive to her. So she came, and she's been with us. So we also are managing a senior and a toddler, and I'm in a doctorate program as well. And so, yes, ma'am, I'm going back to get my doctorate of social work. We're in our first semester. So when we ask how do we manage, by the grace of God, only by the grace of God. Writing, I'll say, this past week, gearing up for the release of the children's book, one night I literally was up all night getting things and kind of getting ducks in a row and putting finishing touches and making sure things were where they needed to be, and then going right into work the next that same day, and being present and kind of doing what we need to do in our full-time job, and coming home. And I think when I got home that night, making sure that I was spending time with my son, and obviously kind of tending to the family and making sure everything was okay. But there are some nights where when my son goes to bed, if we can keep him on a good schedule, because toddlers do what they want these days. But keep on a good schedule. I laid down with him, and I was like, okay, so I'll lay down, make sure he gets down okay, and then I'll get up and kind of finish doing what I need to do. Nope, my body said you are going to sleep for the rest of the night, and that's exactly what happened. So what I'll say too is, my husband, our family situation is great because we do have my grandmother here who is able to stay with our son, if we need to go out and kind of do some things. And then my husband is picking up a lot of the slack from me, where I would normally get him from school on like Mondays and Tuesdays. He'll get him from school. I'll go straight to the library to write, read, do whatever the things it is I need to do. And then we have class every couple of weeks. So I'll go to the library to do classes. And then I'll literally stay at the library until it's closed so that I can continue to write or figure out whatever we need to do. And try not to take so much time away from our son and his extracurricular activities, and being present and showing up for him when I need to be, because he didn't necessarily sign on for these ambitious endeavors, right? He's just kind of here along for the ride, but he's handling it okay.
Ambitious is definitely a key word in your, to be like overachiever.
Yes.
Over your mirror in the bathroom. Yes. That is definitely your word.
Yeah, it
nothing's
is.
wrong with it.
100%.
Your own legacy. And as long as you can handle it and stuff, I find sometimes being busy makes you more organized. Like, it forces you to think ahead and to put all the ducks in line, as you mentioned, and like knowing ahead that you could go to the library this day and how much work you have to accomplish. So I can see it. It sounds like a lot, but I know what it is. I've lived it already. Thank God I don't live it right now.
Yeah.
I've lived that life with young children. Mine are teenagers and young adults already. So
okay,
I understand, but it's like, I know when I was going through it, people thought I was crazy, but it's for a time, right? It's for a season. And then you just look back and, hey, like, I made it through, like you said, thank God.
Yeah. And when you're in the thick of it, you know that it's a lot, right? You're like, oh, I know I have all of these things on my plate, but you just do it because you're conditioned to failure is not an option, right? And then when you come out of it, you look back and you're like, how the heck did I do that? Like, you're right. You look back at it and you're like, oh, that's crazy, but it's our crazy.
My favorite saying is make it happen no matter what. So when I put my mind on something and I say I'm going to do it, like this year, January, you can look in my journal, and I said I'm going to be a best-selling author January in 2021. And it happened in July.
Happened. Yes, I love that.
So make it happen no matter what. And I see you living that right now.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank you.
So what's the best thing that's happened to you since you've been an author, or best-selling author twice over now?
Yes.
What's the best thing that's happened to you since this?
I think just seeing the pride on my son's face when he is going to school, telling his teachers and all of his friends and anybody that will listen that he is an author, right? And him, we take him to our book events with us, and I had somebody message me and tell me, sign him up for head of your marketing, because if he's talking about it, we're gonna buy it. And he's talking about the pieces of content that he's helped us create and publish. So he talks about it with passion, and just seeing those creative juices flowing and being able to, talk with him. And he's always like, Mom, okay, I got a story. I got a new book. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. And for him to be 4.5, I think like that's probably the greatest thing that's happened for sure.
Oh, what a blessing.
Yeah.
So what gives you joy? Like, we were talking about this book at the beginning, finding joy in the journey. So what brings you joy?
Seeing people happy, right? Like, there's so much going on in the world. There's so much that's always going on around us. And as a social worker, I see this every day. People in crisis, people at crossroads, people just struggling to figure out how to take the next step. But when I'm able to help someone, empower someone, help them find the appropriate tool to use to make it on, right, take that next step, and to smile again, or to find their own joy, whatever it is, that brings me joy. Just knowing and seeing that people are happy and thriving around me, and that I'm able to assist in some sort of way, definitely brings me joy.
Definitely. So if you were to describe yourself in 3 words, like if you had to take 3 power words,
Okay.
what words would you use to describe you?
Compassionate, a leader, and fearless.
Fearless. You have to
Yeah.
describe that a little bit more. What's the fearless all about?
So I grew growing up, my family really sewed into me. Even throughout all of the trials and, the roads that we all face, right? Because none of our lives are without obstacles or barriers. But even through those pitfalls, I never once felt like I was inadequate. I always felt adequate. I always was told that you're capable of doing whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is that you put your mind to. My dad instilled in me in a very early age that you will be independent, right? It's great to have a partner. It's great to be able to depend on someone, but sans that person, right? If your back is against the wall, you will know how to do all of the things that you need to do on your own. And so I never go into any situation afraid, because I always know that there's going to be a lesson on the other side of that, good or bad, whether the outcome is positive or it doesn't end the way that I want it to end or that I anticipated. There's always a lesson. And I use those lessons to readjust if I need to, and do it better the next time, or figure out a better way to get to wherever it is that I'm trying to get to.
That might be one of your self-help books. I could already hear it. All the
Yes,
lessons I learned, there's a book about all the things you learned in kindergarten. Well, you might say all the lessons learned from your parents or something like that.
yes.
So, because it seems like you got a solid background. And a lot of people, that's lucky, because a lot of people don't have that. They grew up insecure and they have to figure out the rest. And you started, and you're doing that already with your son by empowering him to do I am statements. I mean, some people wait until they're in their 40s to learn I am this, I am that. So at 4 years old, if he could say who he is, I mean, identity is everything.
Oh my
right?
God.
That's
It's,
who you
yeah,
are, right? So
it is. It
just
is.
know
Even when
who
you
you
don't feel it.
are. Exactly.
Yeah. That's so
So
true.
that's so important. Thank you very much for sharing that. So,
Thank you.
you started your son off at a young age being an author. Were you like young too? And did you always have the desire to be an author, or is this something that developed later on in life and it just transformed?
So I've always been a writer.
Mhm.
And I think I found out later in life, after my dad was deceased, that my dad also was creative that way with words.
Mhm.
Um, but I remember writing poems when I was younger in middle school. And they were really more around what was going on in my life at the time. And that's a longer story for another day. But I remember writing 3 distinct poems, um, and they were good. And then I let my dad read them, and they were good. And then nothing, right? So then fast forward to college, kind of started writing again. Shout out to Hampton University, that's my alma mater. And then my first job out of undergrad, I worked in a residential treatment facility with at-risk youth, with boys and girls. And in that setting, one of the groups, the therapeutic groups I introduced, was a poetry group. So I would help the girls channel all of the things that teenage and adolescent girls are going through in writing. And so we would do that. And so I did that for a little while. And then after I worked there about maybe 3 years as I was in my master's program. And then I just got blocked. Like I couldn't write creatively at all. And I don't know if it was because I had to write academically and that, you know, my something in my brain switched. I don't know what it was. And I was blocked for a long time. I would pick up my journal. I would try to write nothing, maybe 1 or 2 words. And I still have poems that are sitting in my journal unfinished now because I just couldn't create. The words wouldn't come. And then I had my son and we would do affirmations with him. And then as he got older and he was learning his alphabets, and we would do affirmations with him from A to Z. And God said, that's a book. And so I talked to my husband and we kind of put it together, and we just didn't know how to get started. But after we wrote that first book, then the rest of them just came. It just started flowing again.
Wow, excellent. So I'm sure you do a lot of reading. Do you have a favorite author?
So I would probably should be embarrassed to say this, right? But a lot of the reading for pleasure that I do is urban fiction, but we'll keep it there. It's urban fiction. So, you know, Eric Jerome Dickey and Omar Tyree, those individuals. Although these days we're reading a lot more children's books, you know, with our son. So not necessarily a favorite. I kind of can read it all if the story is good.
And what about a mentor? Do you have a mentor? It doesn't have to be a book writing mentor, but do you have a mentor in general, or however you feel like answering?
Yeah, so my current boss actually has become a mentor for me. She understands what it's like to be a leader in the work field. She understands just kind of lots of the adversities we face. And she, for a Caucasian woman, is, I wouldn't go as far as to say she's woke, but she's very attuned to her own biases and just a lot of the obstacles that people of color in our organization have to face in trying to kind of take steps to move ahead. So she is a big supporter of changing how racial justice is viewed, and really doing a lot of the work that a lot of people are scared to do. So I would definitely say that she's become a mentor for me, for sure.
Excellent. And if someone gave you the opportunity to mentor others, you know, what kind of things would you say to them? Like if a young youth came up and approached you and said, oh, I want to be an author, what would you start with? What would you lead with?
For sure. I would tell them, first I would ask them what's stopping them. Right? So why aren't you doing it? And I think a lot of, and my students will tell you this when I teach, I ask them a lot of questions back, and because I like to see the introspection, and I want them sometimes, most of the time, and this is how I am as a clinician, I want people to arrive to their own conclusions, because then it's theirs. And they can take possession of that, and they can take ownership of that. And when you have possession and ownership of it, your drive and ambition to push it forward seems a bit different if somebody's giving you those nuggets, because then you can be removed from it, right? So if I tell you where you need to go and it fails, then the failure is mine and it's not yours. But if you arrive to that conclusion, then the failure, you have to shoulder the failure. I can help you maneuver through that, right? But it's not my failure. And we can talk about the things that kind of led there and again readjust. But it's a difference when you have ownership of your own path.
Exactly. For sure. For sure. So we didn't discuss legacy. We've talked about things that are very relevant. I mean, you wrote a children's book.
Yes.
You gave me your power words. Already we're all inspired by you and your schedule. So you don't even have to go into any of those. But the legacy, why, the big why, what's your
Yep.
why of doing all of this? I mean, you're doing so much. What is that strong why? What is the legacy that you're trying to create?
So in our community, in the Black community, we don't talk about generational wealth. We don't talk about what it's like to really own our own things and what passive income looks like. All we know is the struggle. And I wanted to change that for my son. I wanted to change that I have two godsons as well. One is 18 and one is 13. And I wanted to change that for them. And so my why is that to show what a Black family structure looks like when it's not highlighted in the media, because most of our Black family structures are not highlighted in the media, and we're not shown in a positive light. And so that's the big why, is because just generational wealth, and to show the world that we do things differently, and that Black people are powerful and that we're dynamic and we're brilliant, and they have to accept that as much as they don't want to.
Love it, love it, love it. Now that was some real nuggets in there. Some people have to rewind that part of the show because some people don't have a strong why. She has strong I ams and a super strong why. I think we have to rewind that. But if you want someone to know what she just said, please like and share what we just said today, because someone needs to hear that and develop their own strong why. So if there was a question I didn't ask you, but you would have liked me to ask, what would it be?
Nothing. I think nothing. Listen, you are A++.
You are too kind. You get to come back again.
Whatever you want me.
On a serious note, people need to know how to find you. So your company, your tags,
For sure.
Please let them share with our viewers how they can find you.
Yeah, so we are at Ties That Bind Publishing. So TIES, that THAT Bind BIND Publishing, everywhere. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Pinterest, wherever you can think, you can find us. And then if you want to reach out to me directly, if you have any questions, we actually will be looking to, at some point, opening up or taking on clients for our publishing agency services. That's going to be a little bit further down the line, but if people are interested in helping us help them birth their book babies, then we can do that. And they can reach us at Ties That Bind Publishing at gmail.com.
Super. Well, thank you so much, LaTia. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
You just opened up a whole world of different things that people can do with book writing that we haven't heard actually on this show yet. So
good.
Because it's different and you have another aspect, and just congratulations on all the accomplishments, the children's book, and all the dreams that haven't come to fruition yet, but will be. Make it happen no matter what. And empowering your son to be such an accomplished author at such a young age.
Thank you.
Lots of nuggets here. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. Any last words?
It's been my absolute pleasure sharing this space with you, Alvina, and I appreciate you taking the time to have this conversation with me. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Well, everybody, that was another episode of Let's Keep It Real, Meet the Authors. I'm Alvina Ryan, and that is LaTia Russell.
Bye, guys.